I met Red and Peckerwood during my first visit to Old Tent City here in Nashville, Tennessee. And Peckerwood, the man holding the flag in the background, was the first one to talk with me. In fact, when Peckerwood and I were initially talking, Red was nowhere to be found. Um, and Peckerwood was so incredibly open about living unhoused. But in all of our conversation and all that he had to say, he never talked about why he became homeless. And that was okay. I never asked. I just listened. And yeah, that's the important thing. I just listened. And as we were talking, I noticed this makeshift motorcycle. And I made a comment about it to Peckerwood. And he said, "Oh, that's Red's." And he called out to Red, and you know, this man with a red beard comes walking out of a tent, and he introduces himself, and he climbs on the motorcycle and just sits on it. And I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "Excuse me." I said, "May I make a photograph of you sitting on the motorcycle?" He said, "Sure." And I was just ready to make the photograph. I got in position and was just ready to make the photograph, and all of a sudden, Peckerwood yells out. He said, "Hold on a minute, hold on." I'm like, "Okay." And with that, he turned and he rummaged a little bit, and he brought out this kind of worn American flag. And he stretched it out behind Red with his arms, as far as he could stretch it out. And then I made the photograph. Wow, I made it. And I knew in that moment the profoundness of that photograph. And quite honestly, I can't now imagine that photograph without the American flag. It would have been just a nice photograph, told somewhat of a story. But with the American flag in the background, and with Peckerwood holding it out, stretching it out, and the American flag being weathered, that all spoke volumes to the message, if you will, of the photograph. It gave it so much more depth, so much more of a story. And that happened simply because when Peckerwood yelled out and said, "Hang on," I listened. I let him do, I had no idea what he was doing. He just said, "Hang on." But I let him do whatever it was he was doing, and you see the end result here in the photograph. And, what I realized is that, I didn't give him dignity, and I didn't give Red dignity in the photograph, even though you can see it in both of them. I didn't give that to them. I simply did not take it away.